Hello all, checking back in. I've been learning a lot about breast cancer, about what's available, about treatments and all of this sort of stuff. And I have to admit, I've got a bit of a burn going about the fact that we're not necessarily told everything that's available, particularly if you live regionally. And that a lot of the stuff that's available is only available if you have the money. And I find that I both believe that that's how the system works, and I find it highly frustrating. And a couple of examples I've been incredibly fortunate in that in Melbourne I've been accepted into the Olivia Newton-John Centre. I was originally told that I wouldn't get into that because even though it's a public hospital, they have a catchment area, so that they would only take people who live in that catchment area. I got accepted, against what I had been told would probably happen. Here's the thing though, for me to get to that, it's going to cost me around $200 a week purely in transport. And there's no support for that. There's transport if I have to travel from a rural area into those sorts of places. There's support for that. There's support for accommodation. But if you live in town and it's simply going to cost you that much in petrol and tolls and parking, from what I can find out so far, there's no support for it. I also found out in my situation, because one of my markers, we still don't know if I need chemo. And I've been told I definitely have to have radiation, but I haven't been told if I need chemo because one of my markers is borderline. It's called the HER2. And what I found out yesterday with my research was that there is actually some tests that you can get to work out whether or not chemo is, particularly in my situation, to work out whether or not chemo is actually going to work for you. And these tests will work out whether or not it's far more detrimental to have the chemo than to not have it. And I think this is just absolutely vital because we all know chemo is highly detrimental to the body. I don't think anybody, will deny that chemo is designed to kill things. And it goes into your body, and the reason your immune system is so devastated is because chemo kills things. And the idea with a holistic approach to cancer treatment is that you must support that immune system so that the chemo itself is not causing far more problems than the cancer ever would have. And some types of chemo are actually carcinogenic. They cause different types of cancers. They destroy organs, it's horrible stuff. And I found out yesterday there is a test or a couple of tests to check in certain situations whether or not the chemo is more detrimental to you than the actual cancer. But this test isn't available to everyone. It is not Medicare funded. It is not available unless you have the money, and it costs anywhere between $2,900 and $4,500 to get this test. And one of the more expensive ones is because it's got to be sent overseas to get the testing done. Now, these tests would save so much more illness, so much more medical bills. When you think about it, I mean, with the damage chemo can do to your body, if you can prevent that from happening to more people, then the medical system has fewer people going back into public care to deal with the side effects of the chemo. And to find out that this is something that is only available to the people with the money is devastating. I don't have that sort of money. I tell a lie. I could go into debt to pay for that test. But most people don't have that sort of money. For me, given my situation, that hurts. That really hurts to have to come up with that money. And it's just, like I said, I've got a burn about it. I just don't think it's right. There are so many men and women. It's enough to just have to deal with the fact that you have cancer. It's enough to put drugs into your body that are going to destroy and damage all sorts of other things, or potentially will. It's enough to have to go through surgery. It's enough to tell your family. It's enough to be sick for extended periods of time. Like some people will be unwell for anywhere up to 2 years. And it's potentially preventable if you have the money. And so what I'm thinking is that something needs to be done about this. And it can be small things. It can be like giving someone a voucher for a massage, for a lymphatic drainage massage. It can be helping support someone to get a bit of acupuncture. It may be as big as paying for some of these tests so that people are not exposed to stuff that is going to potentially cause them far more problems than actually help the cancer. Because sometimes chemo doesn't actually help the cancer. Because what I've also discovered is that the stem cells which travel out from the cancer to the other parts of your body to metastasize, from what I understand, sometimes the chemo doesn't actually affect those particular cells. So why are we unnecessarily giving it to people when we have the facilities to test whether or not it's going to work? So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of setting up a crowdfunding campaign. And yes, some of that's to help me. I'll freely admit that, because I want to get every bloody therapy I can. And I don't think I'm alone. I think most people want to get every single thing that they can. But what I'll do is I'll design some products. I'll design something that shows that we are supporting breast cancer. I will design something that shows that what you are doing is supporting the higher levels of care for breast cancer. And 50% of all profits will go to support other people to get the best care that they can, to possibly get some of these tests, depending on how much money we raise, to get these tests to find out whether or not the chemo is actually going to work for them. I want to help people get those extra complementary therapies, get to a proper dietitian that is outside the traditional Western system, that will tell you need to have those horrid shakes which are full of sugar, full of artificial colours and flavourings and all that sort of stuff, because you're losing weight because you can't eat. There are better ways to do this, and people just can't afford to get that extra support to learn the better ways to do this. So this is what I'm thinking. Crowdfunding campaign. I will spend the next few weeks coming up with something that shows that anyone who supports this is in support of getting people the best possible care to live the best possible life moving forward. We are too educated, we are too civilized to allow people to suffer simply because they don't have the money. This is not the ethos of the country that we live in. And so I'm going to do something about it. I hope that you can support it. Keep an eye on this, and we're going to do what we can. I'm going to try and get as much healthcare as I can. I will report back on what I've got, what I'm doing, all of that sort of stuff, and we will find some way to support some other men and women going through breast cancer to get the best possible care they can and to get the correct testing, and so that they're not being held back and potentially further damage happening to their body simply because they don't have the money. Watch this space.